Hello, worldies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. Just a few housekeeping things. I do have a big announcement coming, so stay tuned for that. Also, I do have my membership that is now available. I'm going to be posting content that is never going to be publicly posted on my YouTube, and I also have a Patreon available. So, thank you to everyone who has been supporting those. I want to get into like video requests. Like I have had certain times where people have made a comment and I've like made the video publicly, but I think I want to try to keep that over on Patreon and on my membership page. So stay tuned for all of those good things to come. Today, I want to talk about the politics of envy and dive deeper into why exoticals get attacked so much. So I want you to kind of think of it this way. Envy is not just an emotion, right? Of course, it is an emotion. I think of envy as the emotion of, I deserve what that person has. They should not have it. A scarcity mindset of, I don't have this because they have it. In order for me to get it, I have to take it from them. But it's not just an emotion. There are also politics involved in envy. And I'm not talking about politics in the sense of like right, left, center, stuff like that. But, you know, a lot of times envy is about power. You know, envy decides who gets power, who gets attacked, and who gets celebrated. Exoticals, we're not getting targeted and attacked and whatnot online and even in real life because we are wrong, because something that we're doing is like fundamentally not okay or something like that. Oftentimes, it is more so about the fact that we are disruptive. Envy is your proof of visibility. It's your proof that you are disrupting like the status quo. You are visible to even have people envying you. So, and I've kind of touched on this before, envy isn't necessarily the same as hate. I feel like um people kind of put them in the same box, but it's not necessarily the same thing. What it actually is admiration poisoned by insecurity. It's this pain of witnessing someone else live what you have decided that you don't deserve or you've denied yourself. That's kind of why I kind of draw the distinction on my channel between jealousy and envy, because with jealousy, it's more so like, I admire what you have, but I'm not insecure enough to feel like I can't have it. I'm more so inspired to get it myself as well. And I don't feel as though your having it means that I can't have it. I'm more so like, oh, wow, seeing you have this is highlighting to me the gap between what I have and what I want. And I feel, if you're smart, you're more so inspired to say, oh, well, I can work towards that and get that too. With envy, a lot of times it is like I've already said, you are feeling as though there's only a certain amount of something. So some people, they feel like there's only a certain amount of charisma to go around. There's only a certain amount of talent to go around. There's only a certain amount of influence or money, to go around. And so it's painful for certain people to feel as though there's a limited pool of how much money there is or how much beauty there is, and to feel like you have it, and to feel as though you are having it, and since you have it and all of these other people have it, all of them having it means that I'm less likely to be able to have it. And they start feeling like, it's not even necessarily that they don't want you to have, well, okay, let me say this the way that I want to. It's not necessarily that they, like, it's not that they want what you have. That's not the same thing. Jealousy is more so wanting what you have, like, oh, this person has this, I don't have it, I want it. But when you're crossing into envy, it's adding on this other piece of, I want them to not have it. So that's when you get into like the friends who are taking the other friend on a girls trip and then everybody makes it back but her. That is a lot of times that's envy right there. It's my friend is ambitious. My friend is beautiful. She has a nice body. She's getting attention and everything. The only way that I'm going to be able to have a nicer body or more beauty or more influence or more attention is if I take her out of the game. She has to no longer have it. That happens with exoticals a lot of the time when people are trying to discredit us as opposed to just argue the talking points. They are feeling as though it's not just that they want our influence or they want uh our subscribers or our audience or whatever. They feel as though they want us to not have it. So it's not enough for us to not be in their space. They don't want us to have a space either. They want to discredit our space as well. They want us to not have an audience. They want us to not have a voice. I feel like when it comes to why we get targeted specifically, historically on YouTube and online, we've been getting called the preferences. People see us as representing freedom and an abundance of choices and options. They see that we have access to choose different types of lifestyles, different types of beauty, different types of education, different types of wealth, different types of partners. And we don't ask permission. We just take what we want. Like, I mean, we do. We say, oh, we want visibility. We want to have a voice. We want to have a platform. So we make one. We want a space. We made one. Well, I didn't make it, but I contribute to it. EU, she decided to make this, or that's who I credit as making this space. Our existence, it breaks a lot of these cultural scripts about women and, how we're supposed to navigate, you know, especially from a lot of the people who are attacking us and targeting us. They're coming from these different stigmatized backgrounds or these monocultural backgrounds where there's this very narrow, view of what a woman is supposed to be, how a woman is supposed to show up. I remember seeing in some of Cynthia G's content, because I used to watch some of her content until I realized like there were certain things she would say where I was like, oh wow, like she seemed to be very anti-exotical. I think that's probably before the term was even being used, but that kind of drew me away from her content. But I know that she would always characterize the Black community as being Black male worshiping. And so there's this very narrow view of how you are supposed to navigate as a woman. How are you supposed to show up? How, what you're entitled to, how you're supposed to live. And there are certain things that are just very stigmatized. We've seen that with people making ad hominem attacks against exotical talking points, trying to say that, oh, we're mentally ill or we're crazy or we're insane or we're a cult or something. They want to, they have this stigma around unity, around support. To them, they see a group of women who are including each other, supporting each other, and they see cults because they're so not used to support and unity and loyalty and whatnot. They oftentimes in the Black community are so just monocultural, and it's an issue if a white person or any non-Black person were to say some sort of stereotype against Black people, but Black people stereotype Black people. Oh, you haven't seen this movie, you're not Black. Oh, you don't look like this, you're not Black. Oh, you don't participate in these activities. Oh, you don't eat this diet like us, you are not Black enough. You're not fitting into our very narrow monocultural background, our way of life. We're breaking the script of how we're supposed to navigate as women because we are not shrinking. We don't believe that we have to suffer. We don't believe that we have to serve others. We basically represent some sort of glitch in the matrix to them. The exception that they can't necessarily explain. So they'd rather attack it. And I feel like family and community does play a big role in like the root of envy. You know, a lot of times families may project envy onto you when you live differently than what they settled for. Maybe, that's why so many people in the Black community are always talking about generational wealth and generational curses and breaking them and whatnot. Oftentimes, if your mom lived like this, if your grandma lived like this, if every woman in your family lived this certain type of way, they settled for this type of life, but then you step outside of that, they can project onto you that, wait, so you didn't settle for what I settled for. And they don't just feel jealousy as far as, oh, well, you are showing me that there's another way to live and I want what you have. I'm going to work towards getting it. They feel as though they like it's limited. There's a limited pool of these different things, and they feel as though the outcome that they want is very rare and very few and far between. And so they feel like, if you've got some sort of 1 in a million type of outcome, maybe you weren't set back as much as they were by a certain circumstance, then they feel almost like they have to dim your light. They have to cut you down because, you know, bringing you back down and pulling you back into strife or whatever, they feel as though that increases their chance of getting that outcome that you have. They don't want you to have it. It's not just that they want it, they don't want you to have it. I feel like this can happen, in sometimes immigrant backgrounds, sometimes overly religious backgrounds, stigmatized backgrounds, these very monocultural types of backgrounds where there is only one way to live, to navigate that is okay. There's only one option. There's a lot of shame that they will attach to you around deviating from the script, or this family story, this community story of, this is what we do, this is how we move, this is the path that we follow. There can be a lot of cultural expectations surrounding, if I suffered, then you should suffer too. That's why they're so often, you know trying to point out and highlight and focus anytime an exotical is experiencing violence or strife or poverty, or even if it's some sort of abuse or something. They want to highlight that and praise it and clap and be happy, because they prefer when you're fitting the cultural expectation of, we all suffer, we all is just black, we all is oppressed. They don't see your glow up as evidence that it's possible for them too. They don't see it as freedom. They see it more so as a betrayal of them. There are people who will literally get offended that you are rejecting what they settled for, what they feel like is the only possibility for them. I feel like, you know, there are even certain things where people with envy, like there are these different psychological things that will pop up where it's like, it's these different parts of, I would say, like one part would be denial. They will try to claim and project, like, look at your life and they'll be in denial. They'll say, oh, they're not really happy. Or a lot of times I see with the exotical space, it's this, them denying that we can love every part of ourselves, lying, or they'll deny and basically assume that we are anti-black or something, like, oh, well, they feel like this because they must not really be happy about being black. They must hate being black. They must hate that part of their background. Or, they'll even, I see them doing it to Cardi B and stuff and different exoticals. If you have a daughter who's darker complected, if you're light skinned, they will basically because they've been in denial about you loving your blackness this whole time, they'll feel almost like it's some sort of karma that you're getting, and feel as though you feel humbled by having a darker skinned daughter or something like that. When it's like, eh, that we never said that. Like, what are you talking about? So they'll be trying to deny, they'll look at your out, what you're putting out, and they'll be sitting over there in denial and say, like, she's not really happy. She's not really confident. They may also try to project onto us, like, they must be fake. They must be a cult. They must be immoral. They must be bad people. They must be mentally ill, something like that. They, will also try to minimize your success. They'll try to equate themselves to you and things like that. And basically, it could be something that you worked really hard on, something that you're really proud of, and they'll try to make it smaller. Those are the people that say, "Oh, look at you, you got a little job or whatever. Oh, look at you, you you got a new car or whatever. You got I see you got a little man or whatever. I see you got a little marriage, you in a little relationship or whatever. I see you got so, you got a little bag, you got a little career for yourself or whatever." They'll try to make it seem like, "Oh, it's not that hard. Anyone can do it." But if that was the case, then they would have it. They would be doing it. They wouldn't need to minimize it because they would have achieved it too. They'll try and say, like, "Oh my God, what they have is not that big of a deal. I know people who have that. I have that." But like, they will try to make it smaller because that is how that's how they cope with their sense of envy. They'll also try to attack you and try to say, like, "Oh, who does she think she is?" That's what they're trying to, you know, fake dox us and try to say that, "Oh, we don't look like our the women that we put in our pictures," and all of these different types of things. They'll try to say, "Well, I'm average, so the Exoticals are average. I see myself as average, and so they're average too." And I'm in denial about what I look like, so they must be in denial about what they look like. I feel like with social media becoming a thing where, back in the day, it was kind of like you had to actually be like a celebrity. You had to actually like be, a music artist or some sort of actress or something like that in order to be like not 100%, like you could obviously back in the day before social media still be envied by the people that you just knew in your town, your community, whatever. But social media has amplified it because now anybody can decide, "I want to have a voice, I want to have a platform, and so I'm going to make one regardless of what people think. I'm going to decide that I have value to put out there, and so I'm going to make a platform for myself." And because of this, people being able to platform themselves, it amplifies envy because now, we are visible 24/7 to people. People can see your words. Sometimes I'll have somebody like leave a nasty comment on a video that I put up like 6 months ago or something, or I'll wake up to a nasty comment or something like that. It is a new, amplification of envy because it's not just when I say it because I said it in a conversation in my local community. And so people can only express that envy and view me at that time that I decide to be visible. No, it's up there. Um, and people can be literally poring over it months later, or, while you're asleep or something. People can view you at any time now. They can see your platform at any time. And so they're able, some people, they'll hate watch you. They will watch every single video of yours just to disagree, just to be mad, just to dislike you, just to disagree, just to not like anything that you have to say. And then, I feel like there is this sense of like people consuming you more often. People have more access to each other. People can consume your content, your voice, your pictures, your media, anything, your platform every day if they want to. And then they can silently just be comparing themselves and feeling that envy. And then they may lash out publicly. They'll lash out really loud, really proud, because you hadn't like. And that's something that I think is really interesting about the exotical sector, is that we have a lot of content creators that are way bigger than us that you would assume wouldn't even like know who we are, you would think that they wouldn't even have us on their radar. But I've noticed that even back, I will say, like, I feel like before I even hit 500 subscribers, I remember, I don't think I ever posted about it, but so it was a huge Black woman empowerment creator who was literally using some of the same points from my video. And I was like, oh my God, this girl watched my video. That's crazy. How are you? You have like 20, 30 times as much of an audience than I do. And you are still silently watching, silently consuming the content, and then lashing out publicly. I feel like there's also this aspect of parasocial envy as well too. You know, strangers think that they're entitled to, your struggles, your failures and whatnot. People, everybody, for the most part is putting their best foot forward, and people feel entitled to your authenticity. They feel entitled to knowing all of this information about you. And I feel like due to that, um people take it more personally. If you're curating a certain image for yourself or whatever, people will feel like betrayed. And it's like, I don't know you. Like, why do you feel entitled to knowing everything about me and whatnot? Like, it's very strange. And I feel like online envy is content. Like, people are just always hating on the next person or trying to take the next person down. And I feel like when they're able to see your life at any hour of the day, some people, they can have a hard day living this life where they feel like they're at the bottom of society and they feel like nobody wants them, blah, blah, blah. And then they see your life, and you are just like this proof that they feel as though they've fallen behind, or like this confirmation of their position in society, them feeling like they don't have a good position. Then I also feel like envy can show up in different ways, where there's male envy and then there's female envy. Sometimes women will kind of talk about the fact that sometimes men do want to be women. Sometimes men can envy you and literally feel as though, like, I've had conversations with certain men where, like, I was just absolutely floored to realize that they are envious of women. Like, I've had conversations with men talking about like community resources and whatnot. And this has come up like in the topic of you know, I had some man I was talking to before where he was saying like, oh, and there are all these DV shelters for women and there aren't any for men and stuff like that. He's like, and I'm in my head now that I'm reflecting on it, because this was a long time ago. This was like over a year ago, multiple years ago. But as I'm thinking about it now, I'm like, I understand that it was envy, that he felt as though each time a new community resource for women popped up, that it was taking away from another resource for men. But the way I see it is most resources that exist for women were originated by women. And so if there aren't the same resources for men, it would be because men are busy being envious of the resources that women have and busy trying to make women feel bad for the resources that they have started and have available to themselves. There's some woman who went through some situation and wished she had a resource, and so she decided to get up off her butt and make the resource, and now it's there for the future generations. If men want the resource, then they should make the resource. But then again, that would be really hard. Oftentimes, men are so used to profiting off of free labor from women, and most women aren't sitting there thinking about creating a community resource for men, because it's like, unless you have like a woman who has seen her brother or her dad or somebody like in her family, like, oh, I had a cousin who dealt with this from a woman and it made me impassioned to realize that this should be a resource. Typically that's not what happened. Typically you just get women who become content creators and then like kind of, I don't know, advocate for the male struggle, but it doesn't usually materialize into a community resource for men, you know? And I feel like sometimes men will disguise their envy as critique, like um, trying to like bring a woman down a few notches by, trying to say that, oh, women are high maintenance or they're too much or they're gold diggers and everything. But usually, you know, it's that they wish that they could be gold diggers. They wish that they could be high maintenance. And it's not to the point where they're inspired to say, like, oh, well, I I admire how much she puts into herself. And so I am now like going to do that for myself as well. I'm going to take care of myself better and everything. It becomes, I can't have this because you have it. I admire what you have, but I'm insecure about my ability to get it for myself. If I were to do this, that, and the third, then I'd be looked at as feminine and, not a man. And some men, they will even literally say the quiet part out loud. Then I feel like amongst women, the way that envy um, between women can show up, sometimes I feel like most of the time it is virtue signaling, it is morality, it is, I'm a good woman. I'm not like these bad women over here. So, it becomes things like trying to call a woman a bad woman or a Jezebel, or, she's a home wrecker. She's seeking attention. They'll do this with things that are near and dear to a woman's heart, like trying to call her like a bad wife or a bad mother, or she's mentally ill, she's narcissistic. But both of them are, forms of politics. They're trying to discipline women who they feel like are not shrinking down low enough, and they're breaking that mold. Most of the time, envy is something that people will use, they'll employ it as like a tool of control. So, they're meant to police your behavior. With both of those that I just talked about, like envy from men or envy from women, the male version of envy being the critique of you, it's to police you. Same thing with the female envy, trying to make you feel as though you're immoral, morality policing you. It's to police your behavior. They feel like they basically have to shame or guilt, critique, or, basically beat you back into line. And they're hoping that if they can make you feel guilty or make you feel ashamed, then you'll be less likely to keep shining. I feel as though, like, when it comes to people who are envious, it's not even just that they want you miserable, like, because that is a part of it. They do want you miserable, which is really sad. I've noticed people like literally will want you depressed. They will literally want you struggling in poverty, whatever. But they also want you to be obedient. They want to have that power and domination over you. A lot of times we shouldn't take the attack on Exoticals personally, because these women, they don't know us personally. These men, they don't know us. But it's more so that they view us as a symbol of something. We represent something to them. We embody, what is possible outside these monocultural scripts. When it comes to me, when I was just saying they want you to be obedient, a lot of times, it's not an issue to them if they are the one throwing you in and out of blackness or defining you for yourself, because that is their way of controlling you and policing you. They'll try to shame you when you're not being black enough or something, or they'll try to give you some sort of rejection um if you're trying to connect with the black community. They always want to kind of hinder you in some sort of way. They want to discourage you from just showing up as a full person by trying to make you think through your different choices, whether it's your style choices, the media you consume, the activities you participate, the diet that you eat, the way that you date, anything like that. They want to make you feel as though your acceptance is conditional upon the way that you choose to show up. So then when we take control and we say that, well, I never said I was blickety blackety black. I am a multidimensional woman. I am multicultural. I am multiracial. I can connect with different cultures. I am comfortable navigating with different types of people. I'm comfortable taking part in different types of activities and whatnot. When we are all confident in that, that's embodying, we're a physical representation to them of what could be possible if they were to step outside of their monocultural script of this is the only way to be a Black person. This is the only one way to identify yourself. To them, that's threatening because, you know, if one person escapes that mold or that monolith, it kind of breaks this facade that they are so oppressed and disempowered and that they had no other options available. A lot of times they're very much concerned with proving that everything is the white man, everything is oppression, everything is racism, everything is colorism, everything is, you know, this outside of my control prison that I'm trapped in. And they want you to feel like you're trapped in it as well. So when you're navigating in this different way and you're kind of forging your own path, they don't like that. It threatens their entire identity because then it goes to show that, like, well, maybe I didn't achieve this outcome, not because I was just so oppressed, but maybe because I made certain decisions, maybe because I limited myself. It shows that there never really was this locked door that they couldn't get out of. That was more so something that they chose to believe and they created for themselves. They keep themselves in a mental prison. They keep themselves locked up and chained into this very singular way of navigating. Just the same way when I talk about, your weight loss, you're glowing up, you're leveling up, how you changing and improving is proof to other people who are dedicated to being mediocre and average, that all of the excuses that they have made for their life are bullshit and that they're lies. We are that same thing. We are the living proof that the excuses that they put on their self, all of the limiting beliefs they have, they're lies. They're not true. They're not really limiting them the way that they think they are. It's their mindset all the time. And a lot of times people, the path of least resistance to them is to just destroy the proof that their excuses and limiting beliefs were lies and invalid than to just face that truth. Because if they were to face that truth, that would put the burden on them to then have to change their habits, change their mindset, change everything about themselves. And they don't want to change themselves. They'd rather shame and guilt you into obedience, into fitting the mold. I feel like, there are certain types of powerful women who historically always were the symbol of envy, like Cleopatra, um, maybe Josephine Baker or something, or Frida Kahlo, different types of women where even like with Marilyn Monroe too. Um, there are all these different types of women who history will paint them as crazy, as immoral, as dangerous because they were a symbol of envy. They represented to other women what maybe they could have, but they chose not to get it for themselves. They chose to instead fit the mold and fit in certain ways. And I feel like politics, those same historical things repeat today online through like smear campaigns or trying to label somebody as mentally ill or trying to, attack somebody's morality. But I feel as though envy, there's so many different things that are going to kind of be yeah, these, maybe like a road sign that shows you, you're driving somewhere and you see like, oh, welcome to California. So you see like, oh, okay, I'm on the right track. Or even like, okay, LA in 15 miles, you're heading the same, this exit is coming up. You have all these things on the side of the road to show you that you're going the right way. Envy is going to be that confirmation that you are something that, you know makes, you are admirable and you are stirring up people's demons and their insecurities and whatnot, and that you are a magnet for attention and visibility and conversation. envy is oftentimes just obsession without somebody having the courage to admit it. Like me, I'm obsessive about certain things. Like I have different special interests, and I will just admit that I'm obsessed with those things. Or even um I feel like a much healthier spot to be, like for me, it's easier for me to grow, whether that's in my style or whatever, because it's like I would just claim these different things about myself and not feel shame about that. I'll literally go up to a girl and be like, girl, I am obsessed with your hair. Like I need to know. Like I have the courage to be like, hey, she might be like, hey girl, back up. I don't know you like that. That's definitely a possibility. Or she could decide that, which she's entitled to say, like, you are not entitled to all the information about my style, my hair, my beauty routine, whatever. That is true. But me personally, instead of me feeling envy, I'd rather just admit, like, oh my god, I love this about you. And that is going to open me up more so to learning and gaining more information, because I'm not sitting there trying to shade the person, trying to minimize them or attack them or whatever. I'm brave enough to say, oh, I think you look good. I'm not threatened by feeling like, I feel like you're accomplished, I feel like you're admirable, I feel like you're inspirational, whatever. I'm not threatened by that. I'm more so like, I want to make you feel good, because, I want to tell the certain people who are out there being beautiful, shining, doing great things, that you are valuable. Thank you for what you're doing. You're inspiring me, that way. Because even people who have these platforms and pedestals, they have hard days too. And I definitely want to be that person that lets them know, like, hey, I hope that you can read my comment on a day that you're having a bad day or something. Or I hope that this message that I sent you, or even this comment, or this compliment in person, will keep you going on a day that you are not having the best day or something like that. I feel personally that if you are envied, that simply just means that you've elevated beyond some people's reach. And the only way that they can feel like they can get access to you, they feel like they must throw stones up at you. They feel like they have to attack you and knock you down, because they feel like you're just so far above them. And they feel like that is the only way for them to get what you want. They feel like they have to cut you down and then basically step up on your shoulders to get what you have right now. But I do feel like envy, it does come with a cost. It can leave you isolated. Some people, they can pull away from you, not because they dislike you, but because your success is intimidating to them. It is hard for people who are, you know, stagnant, people who don't feel very good about themselves, people who are insecure about what is within their reach. You can be very triggering to be around. Some people, it's very hard for them to try to fake like they're happy for you. They don't want to keep trying to fake like they're happy for you. Or sometimes people, I've even been in situations where, some of these people, they're trying to hide how much they dislike you. And then it kind of just comes out, and they almost feel like, oh, I've said too much, or I didn't hide it well enough. They get tired of faking like they don't want to be you, and so they pull away. Like it's too intimidating. It's too much for them. Every time they're around you, you have good news. You're feeling good about yourself because you're keeping promises to yourself. You're doing what you said that you were going to do. Accomplish your dreams. You are shooting for the moon and the stars and the sky and the freaking stratosphere, versus, they don't feel like they're ever going to achieve even half of what you believe you can. They're just like, wow, this person just always is so confident. This person always just believes in themselves. Like, and it highlights to them their negative self talk and how poorly they view their own self. You can also end up, once you're envied, you start dealing with slander. People want to start saying that you're too much. They'll label you as too much, label you as superficial, label you as being fake, label you as being crazy, and things like that. There's a lot of that kind of monocultural Black community talking point of like, you don't talk to nobody and you change and everything like that. That's when people will start slandering you, instead of them saying, oh, you've elevated, oh, you've improved, oh, you've evolved. They don't want to use, because those are all, positive connotation words for changing. It becomes, I don't know, she's just crazy. She's just fake. It's not that I'm fake, it's that I changed for the better, but you just feel like it's out of your reach. they want to say like, oh, you're too much, you take things too seriously, or oh, you're too emotional, and all these different things. People, they want to call you too emotional when you decide to honor yourself and say, oh no, you're not allowed to disrespect me, or you're going to lose access to me. Then they'll say, oh, I don't know, that girl, she was just too emotional, she wouldn't let me disrespect her, and she gave me consequences, she set boundaries. I like being able to talk to people crazy, and she wanted me to not talk to her crazy. And so, that was a problem. You'll even deal with people legitimately trying to sabotage you, people offering you bad advice, them encouraging your slip ups. I've dealt with this before. Like every once in a while, I'll ask somebody for some advice. Um, on something that, like, this is if somebody wants to act like they're knowledgeable on something. You say you're knowledgeable on this, I'm going to ask you for some advice. Like, this is in real life. I do this. I don't do this like online. I don't think I do this online. But in real life, you want to be the authority on this or that or whatever. Okay. If I suspect that somebody might be, out to sabotage me or something, I will ask them for advice, because people that I don't think are out to sabotage me or whatever, that I admire, that I feel like are authorities on certain topics, I will ask them for advice. And that kind of becomes almost like a test to see, like, are you going to give me some bad advice? I had this situation recently, somebody who claimed they know so much about, they claim they know all this and that about cosmetology and, you know, um, you know, color theory and all this stuff. I asked them like, oh, what do you what kind of shade of this color do you feel like would look good on me, or like what do you feel like I am? And they gave me, like, I this is the thing, I already know my color season. I already know my color season, but I just wanted to ask because you claim that you're the authority on this. I noticed with this person there was somebody else, like I was in a co-ed space where I was like regularly meeting with these people. And there were two girls who had a similar background, but only one of them would I have traded bodies with. Only one of them, I thought was very beautiful. I felt like she had aspirational beauty. And so I wanted to talk to her about. I wanted to talk to her. I'm like, you other one, like, I'm not trying to find out anything from you, because in the other one, she kind of took me more so under her wing, like kind of helping me and everything. And I could see that she would give me compliments and stuff like that. I would give her compliments. She would be like, oh my God, tell me about your skincare. And I'd be like, oh my God, girl, tell me about your updo or something. Um, and we would kind of just be going back and forth, sharing things with each other. And I noticed that this other girl, because she wanted to be seen as an authority on it, she kind of started feeling some type of way when um, I don't want to say I was leaving her out, but I just like, I'm not here to stroke your ego. Like, I don't think you're an authority on this. I see how you dress. I see what your body looks like, and I don't want nothing you got going on. I see how thin and stringy your hair is. So I'm not trying to ask you about hairstyling. Your style. I'm not trying to ask you. Like, it's not trying to say that you don't look good or whatever. But it's like, you don't have anything that I'm trying to emulate. Me, I'm the type of person where it's like, I'm very comfortable and bold about basically letting somebody know that, like, you got something going on that I'm trying to emulate. So what's that all about? Like, not, oh, I'm trying to wear your skin, because I've dealt with that, people wanting to know all the tea, but me just saying like a very specific thing, like, how do you do this? Like, what is your view on this? Like, do you have any advice on this? Like, how I can work on this? And no, I'm not trying to treat this person as my guru. I'm going to do my own research too. But I'm like giving them the compliment of like, hey, you are doing so well at this that I am comfortable coming to you for advice. The other girl felt some type of way that I didn't, have any type of it. I didn't have any questions for her or anything. So I asked her a question at a certain point. I was like, hey, like, what do you think about my color season or whatever? This girl literally tried to sabotage me. She literally, like, I remember like going through it with like chat GPT and everything, and then basically like kind of confirming, like, yeah, like, if this person is claiming that they were an authority and they knew so much about this, it really sounds like they were like dead ass trying to sabotage you, because what they were trying to suggest to you literally just doesn't make sense. And I was even trying to give the benefit of the doubt, like, is it possible that under a certain lighting or at a certain time of day I could have looked like this other color season or something like that? And they were like, no, either this person was straight up lying about what they know, or they were just straight up trying to sabotage you. People will try to give you literally bad style advice, literally like encouraging your worst habits or whatever, trying to encourage you to keep falling off the horse or whatever. And it's crazy. People do insane things because of envy. But I feel like, you know, even though being envied is, it is a roadmap, or like kind of like a sign that you are on the right track of becoming more aspirational and everything. It isn't necessarily comfortable all the time, but it is political. It shows that you are gaining power, that you have power and whatnot. Um, but comfort is not the goal of power. Like, being powerful doesn't mean that you feel comfortable all the time. Growing is not comfortable. I feel like you do you do have to learn how to handle envy without shrinking. You have to recognize it as proof of impact, proof of visibility and power. And don't argue with the people who envy you, because it's not a logical thing. It's emotional. It is, these people, they have these limiting beliefs for themselves, they have these lack mentalities for themselves. They literally would rather spend their time trying to deny your accomplishments or minimize them or attack you, invalidate you, discredit you, because simply because they've deluded themselves into thinking that because you have this thing, that they can't have it. They don't put their energy into getting it themselves in their own way. Because of having an abundance mindset, there's enough to go around, there's enough money for everybody, there's enough audience for everybody, there's enough support for everybody, enough beauty for everybody, enough attention for everybody. They don't feel like that. They literally are putting their energy into sabotaging you and trying to get you to shrink, because they want you to not have what you have. But you can turn your envy into fuel. Let their obsession with you boost your relevance. If you're envied, you've basically already won. The question is whether you're going to shrink because of the fear of the more uncomfortable parts of being envied, or if you're just going to keep climbing, keep elevating, keep getting better. Say, oh, you envy me a little bit, I'm going to give you a little bit more to envy too. The politics of envy is not going to go anywhere. It's not leaving. It's one of the oldest, psychological phenomenons out there. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. But if you understand it, you can learn to not fear it. Exoticals, we are not out here playing to be liked. We're not out here trying to placate people and stroke their egos and everything. We're playing to win, and whatever that looks like for each of us. Envy is honestly just background noise to your victories and to your wins and to your accomplishments. I feel like a lot of times people who envy you, they don't understand that, one, we can typically tell when somebody's envying us. It's that they admire you and they're silent about it, and then it's just eating them up. And so they want to sink their teeth into you. They want to try to hurt you in some sort of way. They're basically wanting to attack you because you remind them of what they never could become. Your literal existence is a rebellion of everything that they believe. And so of course they're going to envy that. Of course they're going to envy the fact that you're rebelling, you're stepping outside of the mold, and they wish they could. They don't have the confidence to do that. It is basically like just a tax that you have to kind of pay for being visible, the same way that EU will say, like, oh, collecting my exotical tax, that's part of it. If you're going to be visible, people are going to envy you. If you're going to be aspirational, people are going to envy you. They're going to not want you to have what you have. But basically, the way I see it is like, if you're not getting envied, you're not shining bright enough. If you don't have any haters, you're doing something wrong. So, what do you think, worldies? Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever had a friend try to like guilt you for your glow up? Let me know down in the comments below. Until next time, worldies, eyes on the prize.